Many millennia ago, the primordials emerged from the elemental chaos. Together, they created Runera, a place which would be the perfect combination of each of the elemental planes. However, the gods would emerge from the astral sea and begin placing their creations on Runera and molding the world in the way that they chose for it to be. The primordials obviously didn't like this, so they attempted to destroy the gods' children, and this sparked a war between the gods and the primordials called the Dawn War. Some gods would change sides and fight for the primordials, and some primordials would end up helping the gods. Eventually, however, the primordials would be defeated, with the gods emerging victorious. Most of the primordials would be either killed or imprisoned, though some would manage to escape and go into hiding. A new sub-age called the Reconstruction would then begin. This time period would consist of the gods attempting to rebuild Runera and once again begin populating it with their children and other creations. Thus began the Second Age, the Age of Bliss. This age consisted mostly of the gods flourishing alongside their children on the material plane, though it was not uncommon for the gods to travel to the outer planes as well. It is unknown how long this age lasted. However, a war would break out between gods and mortals called the Insurrection. You have to keep in mind that during this age, gods were extremely powerful, but not as powerful as what we picture them to be today. Uh, Many of them ruled over entire countries or continents, and made laws, and governed over their people. The insurrection was not a coordinated event. It was mostly random, unrelated events. However, each of these events had something in common. They were mortals attempting to kill their gods. The insurrection likely only spanned one, maybe two human lifetimes. But so many things happened during this time, it's going to need to have its own video. However, the results of this widespread revolution was the gods leaving Runera. Many of the gods had placed these large stones, these monoliths that stood over 10 feet tall around Runera. These monoliths were a way for their worshippers to gain some of their power without having to directly pass them down. Whenever the gods left the material plane, they decided to remove their monoliths of power from the material plane. All except for Aro, the god of magic, who believed that mortals deserved the full power of the weave. And he also believed that the mortals were the eventual successors of the gods. He shattered his monolith and spread the small jewels that remained across the material plane. This angered the gods because the entire reason why they left was because mortals had grown too powerful. When the gods fled the material plane, they put limiters on the powers of their children, only allowing them to cast spells of a certain level. This made the most powerful spell that a mortal could cast the wish spell, meaning that even when a mortal had reached their new maximum power, now the most that they could do is ask the gods for a favor. Aro, in shattering his monolith, allowed humans to continue casting limit-breaking spells. They need only find one of his many jewels. The gods leaving began the Third Age of Runera, the Age of Abandonment. Many mortals were angry with the gods for leaving and limiting their powers, so widespread atheism and general hatred for the gods became common practice. The mortals didn't realize what they were doing. You see, during the Age of Bliss, the gods had become so dependent on their children's worship that they literally could not survive without it. The less people who worshipped them, the closer they came to simply disappearing. There were thought to have been hundreds or possibly even thousands of gods that walked Runera during the Age of Bliss. However, by the time of the Redemption, less than 50 gods were still known. During the Third Age, there were many religious people who sought refuge from the angers of their brothers and sisters. So, many people fled to the Shielded Isles, where they would remain mostly untouched for thousands of years, and would eventually contribute to the starting of a new age. The Third Age lasted thousands of years and saw many races and societies rise to power and fall. Everyone from giants to dragons ruled entire continents at one point or another. Eventually, however, humans would have their turn, and an event called the Redemption would take place. The religious leaders of the Shielded Isles would convince the world to once again turn towards the worship of the gods. This would mark the beginning of the Fourth Age, or the Age of Redemption, or after Redemption, depending on who you ask. This is the modern age, and has so far lasted just over 1,000 years. A lot of things happened after the Redemption, because this begins the recorded histories of Runera. So all of those events will be in the histories videos and will be covered separately. I'll also likely be breaking down each of these ages even more, at least a few events that took place during these ages. But yeah, this was just a video so that if I'm ever talking in other videos about different ages or different events, you'll kind of have an idea of who and what I'm talking about. So, thank you for watching.